Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the December 7th, 2021 Post Falls City Council meeting. Shannon, please note that all council members are present. And under ceremonies and announcements, appointments, I do have an announcement. There's a public open house for the Spokane Street and Prairie Avenue project tomorrow, Wednesday, December 8th, from 4 to 7 p.m. at City Hall. This is a great opportunity to learn more about the project and address questions you may have and to provide input. So please feel free to attend. And then, Council, last meeting I asked for confirmation and you approved for Melissa Jeltness to the Urban Renewal Commission, but it was listed wrong on the agenda. So tonight, again, I'm requesting for confirmation to appoint Melissa Jeltness to the Urban Renewal Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Shannon, please take the roll.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And thank you for catching that. Are there any amendments to the agenda tonight?
There are none tonight, sir.
Any conflicts of interest or ex parte communications? Seeing none, would you please present the consent calendar?
Item A is minutes from the November 16th, 2021 City Council meeting. Item B is payables from November 9th through November 29th, 2021. Item C is acceptance of the canvassed November 2021 election results. Item D is River Park 12-plex grant of sewer easement. Item E is Prairie Crossing Subdivision Master Development Agreement. Item F is North Shore District PUD Subdivision Reasoned Decision. Item G is Chase Road BNSF Railroad Crossing City of Post Falls Project A019955 KN19955 Local Professional Services Agreement. And item H is Prairie and Spokane Street Phase 2 easement purchase from Crown Point Apartments 2 LLC. And item I is agreement between the City of Hayden Lake and the Post Falls Police Department for temporary sheltering of dogs.
I've got two comments on item F, the North Shore District PUD. That will come to me for my signature if council approves. And as I recuse myself from that public hearing, I will ask Council President Wilhelm to sign that document. And on item G, I believe Councilor Wolf's going to make a motion, but there was a page included on a project that did not pertain to this particular agenda item, so we're going to need to have that removed. Is there any other questions on the consent calendar?
I'd move to accept the consent calendar with the exception of page 160 of item G, which was erroneously included.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Malloy.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item tonight are public hearings, and we do have two public hearings. Anyone wishing to testify, please fill out the form on the dais in the back, present it to our clerk, and we will let you speak to the council. The first item up tonight is the Point Partners easement. That'll open the public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor Jacobson, council members. I'm Laura Jones, Associate Planner with the City of Post Falls, and I'll be introducing the Point Partners easement vacation, file number VACA 0003, 2021. The applicant and the owner is the Point Partners LLC. The requested action is to review and approve the vacation of a 10-foot wide utility easement associated with lots 2 and 3, block 3, of the Point at Post Falls 3rd Edition subdivision. The utility easement is located south of Point Parkway, again within lots 2 and 3, block 3, as indicated in the red. And it looks like there's 4 lots there, but it is just a section line, so it's just the two lots. Here's the plat from Point at Post Falls 3rd Edition. Again, seeing that it's on lots 2 and 3. And what I have circled there is the 10-foot wide sidewalk utility and drainage easement that was granted with this plat. So there is still utility easements provided to these lots. Staff has no concerns with the proposed vacation. There are no known utilities currently existing within the easement, and the vacation will not materially impact the ability to provide services to the impacted parcels, as indicated on the plat with that 10-foot easement along the south side of Point Parkway. And it could potentially increase the development potential of the impacted parcels. Here's a list of the agencies that were routed for review. Of these agencies, only one had comment, and it was Post Falls Highway District with no comment. And with that, I can take any questions.
Mr. Laura? Seeing none, thank you. Anyone wishing to testify?
We have none.
With that, I'll close the public hearing. That was a quick one.
Yeah. I would move to approve the Point Partners easement vacation VACA-0003-2021.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Orders,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thanks, Laura. Next public hearing tonight is the update to the fiscal year 2022 fee resolution. With that, open the public hearing.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jason Faulkner, Finance Director. I have 4 pages of the fee resolution that I wanted to bring to your, I'm seeking approval for. The overhead projector is not working, so I hope everybody has their council packet. It is, the first page I wanted to talk about is the water cap fees. We've had a need for an 8-inch meter, so we have a fee for that. And also, the 8-inch meter is going to be $185,177.76. And also, we have a, since that is a new meter, we'll have a new monthly fee for that as well, and that's going to be $290.20 a month. The next page I wanted to talk about is also with the parking fees. Parks Director had brought to council a proposed fee for parking. And what I had done is I tried to highlight what the current fees are in the fee resolution and then any changes in yellow. So we can go through the cars, residents, and there's a non-residents. Cars for increase from $5 to $6 for a resident. RV will be, there's currently no fee, but they're proposing a $15 fee. A boat launch fee will increase from $8 to $15. And buses will be $10, the proposal is from $10 to $50. Those are for residents. Non-residents, cars, there'll be a fee for $10. RVs are going to be $30. Boat launch is $30, and buses will be $50. Also, a season pass. If there's a resident for a car, there was a proposal to have a pass for Post Falls residents. Any additional or a lost fee of a lost pass card for a car will be, is proposed to go from $15 to $20. A bus for a resident will be $150. And for a non-resident, a car was a proposal being charged from $30 a day to $50 a day. And then they proposed for a bus for a non-resident bus of $150. Then the last 2 items I have are just a few housekeeping items. The one has a retaining wall. Currently, there's a fee of $7.50 per linear. I want to change that to $4.50. And the last one is tree installation fees. Or the urban forester has proposed that since everything has increased, instead of the current cost is $400 per tree, he's proposing to ask council approval to increase that to $600. And in the city code, the planning department has mentioned that there is a fee in lieu of parking, and that is a new fee altogether. And the planning department is proposing to add a new fee of $6,102 for that.
And what was that one for again?
It's a fee in lieu of parking. whenever new parking is created, there's additional money set aside so that we can create additional parking on top of that. That's currently addressed in the code. There's no fee associated with that. So the planning department provided that, and that's the proposal for that.
Any questions for Jason? Go ahead, Joe.
When is the tree installation fee applied?
If somebody's putting in a development and they don't want to put in the trees, they can pay that monies to have the city put in the trees. And so the urban forester will go and purchase the trees for the development, and they will install them themselves.
It's only at time of development though, right? So if somebody already has a house, they live there for 10 years, they want to put in a tree. they don't have to
I
pay.
think it's just at the time of development.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was clear on that. Thank you.
Let's go down, Carrie.
That was actually my question. But I would let you know that parking, fee in lieu of parking needs a K.
I know, I saw that. That was the last one. Thank you.
Jason, do we have to make note in the new fees for parking at Camelin, the fact that there will be a no fee available?
I am not sure about that.
Because we did make that as a consolation to adding these fees.
I will find out.
Field, is that something you can address now, or?
So if there is no fee, I don't know that you need to have a fee. You just don't have a fee for that.
I guess the only thing I'm concerned about is it kind of creates some confusion that, that it says in the ordinance or whatever that we're going to charge $5, but at the same time, we've agreed that we're not going to charge the $5 in a particular instance where a person gets that free pass for the year.
I agree. I think we need to have it outlined in the resolution, because that's the document that we would refer to.
Even if it's just a note
Yeah.
Yeah,
that each
and-
household will be provided with a free parking pass or something of that nature.
I think that's
Okay.
appropriate.
Okay, we good with that?
Steve?
I got just a question, maybe this is for Dave too. Under buses, $50 for residents, non-residents. So what are we determining a bus? Because I know like a lot of our youth groups or senior groups have 12-passenger vans or 13. So are you looking at $50 for them, or is this like school buses that hold 40 kids?
This would be the 35
Yeah, I agree.
passenger or higher bus in there, or the commercial bus, whether it's, we see the YMCA coming in a lot and dropping off, or, so like a nursing home with the small vans, which are the 15 to 20, no.
Okay.
It's that bigger,
So basically, if you don't need a CDL license, they would be they wouldn't be the $50. Because if you have more than 15 passengers, you have to have a CDL license. So if it's a vehicle that doesn't require CDL, they wouldn't be paying the $50 fee.
right.
Okay.
What we're seeing is private businesses, which are the YMCA's and everything else that are coming in and
With the big-
just dropping in. The reality is probably a number of them will just dump the people outside the park.
Yeah, that was my biggest concern, because a lot of our nonprofits or senior groups have those smaller vans, and so I just wanted to make sure they can't afford the $50 a lot of times.
Any more questions for Linda? Go ahead.
I do. Since we're going to bring this as a resolution under action item number D, are we going to then add that we're going to,
I will add that. I'll bring that back to the next council meeting.
okay, so we're going to scratch that
I
resolution?
will do that, yes.
Good. Carrie?
Thank you.
I was wondering, by the same token, what Alan was talking about, on the buses, if that should be clarified in there?
Okay. We can do that.
Well, Field, we can move on that resolution when it comes to it, just with the addition of a note that says there's a zero parking fee pass available, correct?
Well, so this is the public hearing for the fee
Oh, yeah,
increases and the
not
fee
the public hearing
changes.
has to go.
So I think that we will satisfy the public hearing aspect of the fee increases and the new fees. And then we can just bring back the resolution with the proposed changes at the next council meeting for
Okay.
approval on the old business.
Perfect, thank you.
It was just fine.
Good.
Good. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, thank you.
Chad, anyone wishing to testify? Neutral wishing to testify, Mike Pellicero.
Mike Pellicero. Maybe more of a question than a testimony, and maybe you're addressing it and I'm just missing around about it. Currently at like Quamelin Park, you can go over, if you're just launching or picking up your boat and not parking, then is that going to something they're going to now charge for? Because currently you're able to go in, you grab your boat or drop it off and leave, and if you don't use the parking place, there's not a charge for that. So I don't know if they were adding that to it or not.
Yes, we are adding a launch fee.
There is a launch fee?
Yes.
Okay. And then the other question or suggestion, as they look at it, I was looking at one point wanting to build a garden wall. And I called to find out how much, if it was over 4 foot, if it was 6 foot. And the fees for that, even the lady I was talking to kind of even laughed. She goes, yeah, they're kind of a little bit ridiculous for a 6 foot wall. And if they're looking to lower it for a retaining wall, maybe they could readdress for somebody wanting to just build a 6 foot garden wall or whatever, you know, people call it by different names, but maybe not quite so much. I mean, the fee was like about a third of the cost of building the wall. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. We can look at that. So we can move forward with this, but that's something we can take into consideration. Okay. We were the applicant. Jason, no need to rebut. No. That I'll close public hearing. Council.
That's coming up later in ordinances, isn't it?
It is, you're right. It's a resolution.
But we're not
Except we're
going
not going to
We're
do
going
it.
to table it until the next
So
meeting.
we need a
though.
motion to,
To
at this
direct
point-
us to bring back a resolution with the changes.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business and returning ordinances and resolutions. And there are several. First is the Title 18 Zone Code update.
Move to place the ordinance Title 18 Zone Update TA-0001-2021 on its first and only reading while under suspension of the rules.
Second?
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Motion passes.
An ordinance amending sections of Title 18 zoning, the municipal code of the city of Post Falls, Kootenai County, Idaho, repealing and replacing 181210 definitions, amending 181610A3, medium density residential, amending 181610 B1, limited commercial, repealing and replacing 182030 land use table, repealing and replacing 182040 official bulk and placement regulations table, amending 182080 B1 planned unit development PUD maximum residential density, amending 1820-150 administrative exceptions, amending 1824-20 general standards, amending 1824-30A2 accessory dwelling units, amending 1824-30D multifamily performance standards, amending 1824-40 commercial and industrial performance standards, amending 1824-70 parking, amending 1824-80 landscaping, amending 1836-90 sign permit requirements and administration, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing severability, providing for the publication of this ordinance by summary, and providing an effective date.
Move to approve the ordinance Title 18 Zone Update, Code Update TA-0001-2021 to direct the clerk to assign the appropriate number and that it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Wolf.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next ordinance, Title 12 Driveway Approach.
Move to place the ordinance Title 12 Driveway Approach with standards TA-0002-2021 on its first and only reading while under suspension of the rules.
Second.
Second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Borders.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Harrington.
An ordinance of the City of Post Falls, Kootenai County, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing for repeal and replacement of Post Falls Municipal Code 12.1260, providing for driveway approach widths, providing that remaining sections of Post Falls Municipal Code shall remain in effect, providing for survival of actions for violation of prior ordinances, providing for severability, providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law.
Move to approve the ordinance Title 12 Driveway Approach with Standards TA-0002-2021 to direct the clerk to assign the appropriate number and that it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Anthony?
Aye.
Malloy?
Aye.
Thorson?
Aye.
Wilhelm?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Borders?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next ordinance, Spokane River Safety.
Move to place the ordinance Spokane River Safety on its first and only reading while under suspension of the rules.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Shannon, please take the roll.
Malloy?
Aye.
Thorson?
Aye.
Wilhelm?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Borders?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
Motion passes. Field?
An ordinance amending the municipal code of the City of Post Falls, Kootenai County, Idaho, repealing Chapter 8.44 and adopting a new Chapter 8.44 to regulate entrance into the Spokane River Channel in areas above and below the Post Falls Dam, providing definitions and exceptions, and providing that the first and second violations of this ordinance within 2 years are infractions punishable by a fine of up to $300, and that all subsequent violations within 2 years are misdemeanors punishable by a fine of up to $1,000 or by imprisonment for up to 6 months, or both, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing severability, providing for the publication of this ordinance by summary, and providing an effective date.
Move to approve the ordinance Spokane River Safety to direct the clerk to assign the appropriate number and that it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Thorson?
Aye.
Wilhelm?
Aye.
Borders?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
Malloy?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next up, we have a resolution.
Are we doing the resolution?
That's right. We're going
we're
to table that.
skipping.
Thank
Are we
you.
going to table that? Okay.
How about skipping item D then, as discussed, and moving on to item E, adoption of collection system master plan? I'm getting old. I forget from 10 minutes ago what we're skipping, so I appreciate all your help.
Get your little earbud and we can give you.
Talk to me.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Craig Bornpool, Utilities Manager for the city. Real quick, this is listed under action items, but I think the goal here today is to see if you have any further questions before we bring back a resolution formally adopting the sewer collection system master plan and the amendments. So that's, as I work through the presentation here, we're not looking for an action, just give you an opportunity to remind you where we are with the plans. So history of the project. This goes back a little bit. Keller Associates was hired in 2017 to do a master plan, really evaluating the collection system for the sewer system. That was finalized in 2019. The plan was approved by DEQ, and there was a council workshop on this plan in September of 2019. Seems like a lifetime ago. We're all downstairs. It was great. Since that time, there have been some other developments right on the heels of that workshop. There was development interest along Pleasant View, which really wasn't fully accounted for in that collection system based on how people were coming forth looking at the development. So we engaged Keller Associates to do a focus study along that corridor, which they completed in June of 2020. And then more recently, there was other development interest near the intersection of Prairie and Idaho. Related to that was some of the sewer routing that you can see in Area 2 was no longer available. So plans that were just a year or two old, we missed our opportunity to place pipe where those showed, and we needed to evaluate other options. So another amendment to the full master plan. We again engaged Keller, looked at options for us, and they completed a study that was stamped November of this year. So on the heels of those additional efforts, it seemed like an appropriate time to bring forth the full master plan and these amendments for adoption by the council. Want to walk through what the plan does and what the plan does not do so that we're clear where we are. I'm going to start off with what it does not do. This plan, again, is just a plan. It doesn't provide engineering level plans and specifications, for any of the items listed in here. We bring those forth to you quite regularly and is a common process, but this plan doesn't do that. Another thing this plan doesn't do is encumber the city with future expenditures. The costs that are listed in the plan are for planning purposes, so we're not, encumbering anything by adopting this. What the plan does do, it provided a system evaluation, looked at long-term repair and replacement strategies, provided a short-term and long-term capital improvement plan was developed as part of this. Some things that I want to highlight are a couple of the things it does do is reduces leapfrogging. We really wanted Keller to look at a problem of lift station going to the next lift station, going to an older one before it came here, when a lot of our future development is out on the periphery. And we were tired of pumping underneath the interstate and then back underneath the interstate. So we wanted to reduce that and look at where those large areas are going to be developed and what we can do to reduce the leapfrogging. Apologize, this is very crude. This isn't exactly where the pipeline goes, but the point gets made. We're not going through some of the older infrastructure adding to the problem. We identified some of those areas that we needed big regional lift stations that would pump directly to the water reclamation facility. Another task that we had for Keller was where might we be able to eliminate lift stations? Now that there's improvements downstream of these, can we eliminate some? The red stars are already eliminated. We've already implemented some of this plan. Those are lift stations. We'll never have man hours going to those again. The 2 stars are slated for elimination as part of the Spokane and Prairie intersection project. So we're on our way to accomplishing some of those goals already. It does also provide an implementation policy. Rob is much better versed in how community development takes the facility plan and uses it for their needs. So I'll turn it over to him.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. When it comes to implementing the master plan for the sanitary sewer system, we've been doing this for quite a while. We've had older studies, and a lot of it is just updating what we have. From the study, we do have flow projections, and we lay out where we anticipate the necessary trunk lines in areas for future growth, so that when a project comes in, right now we lay all that out in our GIS system. We can pull it up in our GIS, look at the parcel of land, see what flow basin as far as which lift stations it goes through, what is the pipe system that it's supposed to go into, and then make sure that we're directing the sewer to the correct locations. It also allows us right now to go back into the model and take a look and see, is it a critical area where we have some concerns and need to do additional analysis as far as what remaining capacity is at a lift station, or is it going to be triggering an upgrade to a section or sections of pipe? When we're in times of very rapid growth like we are now, regularly updating the master plan is important, because we need to know where those lift stations are at, as far as how much flow is going into them and what their capacity is. That changes from year to year, and when you add 500-600 new homes into an area, it can diminish the lift station capacity fairly quick. One of the projects that Craig mentioned, which was out by the Idaho and Prairie Avenue location, that brought to light a issue that we have over by the Fisher lift station, and really quickly diminishing flows at that lift station in its capacity, and we're addressing those right now. That would cover the future deficiencies that are being identified, and we've already updated our GIS system to have this new master plan in it, and over the last couple years we've actually been utilizing both the old master plan and this one, looking at the two, because there's a little bit of gray area between where some thought processes changed, and we didn't want to put the city in a position that if we adopted this, we hurt ourselves as far as how a lift station is going to operate in the near future. any questions that you might have for me or Craig.
Questions for either Craig or Rob? See none? Thank you. So do we need a motion to bring that back then? Is
It
that
would
just
be appropriate to have a motion to bring back a resolution to adopt it.
So moved.
Second.
motion second? Further discussion?
You're good at that.
Roll call, please.
Wolf,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Joe, thanks for being so eloquent.
Well, I don't have to think that way, so.
Next item, under the old unfinished business, is the Telemora Sports Complex Phase 1 design contract.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, Robbie Quinn, Parks Planner, and I'm here presenting the Tulamore Sports Complex Phase 1 design contract for your consideration. Quickly, I'll kind of go through some of the background again. So this is the master plan that was adopted by council September 15th of last year. Basically, it was 5 youth baseball fields, 4 multi-use fields, 2 parking lots, some shelters, concessions, hard surface courts, and a smaller maintenance facility. And so from there, this year, we came to you in July seeking your approval for the mass grading, which was approved. And so this was a picture of the site before the mass grading took place. If you recall, there was a lot of debris and large topsoil piles, and people were using it to ride their dirt bikes and ATVs, etc. Again, just another picture before. And so the mass grading was complete last month, and this is kind of a picture looking southwest on Cecil, and it's kind of hard to see, but it's flat now, which is a good thing for a sports complex. So this is basically a field right here, and then if you see this dark area, it kind of mounds up at the center where kind of the hub of the ball fields will be. And then another picture a little further south. This is kind of where the maintenance yard will go, the first parking lot over here, and then the main access through the site kind of along this point here. So those are just a few pictures of where the site looks like now. We did install some fencing, some field fencing. Our parks crew did, just to protect the site and keep some of the vehicles off from tearing it up until we get to our next phase. So this was the timeline that was presented at that adoption council meeting. And so we're currently just kind of going along with the next step, fiscal year 2022, phase 1 design. So that's what I'm here presenting this evening. And the contract is broken into 2 separate tasks. The first one, task A, are road frontage improvements along Cecil and Prairie. So you can see right here, north-south is Cecil, and then at the top, Prairie. And so this would include the continuation of the road expansion on Cecil and Prairie with the curb, the swale, our multi-use path and sidewalks, street trees, and street lights. Next, task B is the internal park. So for phase 1, we're including 3 ball fields, the center concession stand, parking lots, and then the 4 multi-use fields. And so this will be broken into 3 basically kind of bid packages essentially. And so that'll give us the greatest flexibility when we get to the point of bidding on what we want to bid at that time, and kind of as alternates too, to see where some of the other pricing falls in, if we can afford it at this point or go on to the next one. Because if you recall, kind of in the timeline, we spread this out over 10 years basically, and so depending on pricing, some of these things may be pushed to the following year, but we just wanted to get them designed at once so everything kind of flows together, and then again we can bid them together and see where the pricing falls at that point. And so fees for task A, that came in at $96,703.96. Task B, the internal portion, $359,273.26. I'm also seeking a 10% contingency for any unknowns that come out during the design process for $63,597.72 for a total ask of $699,574.94, and this would be paid out of the park impact fees. And with that, are there any questions?
Questions for Robbie? Al, go ahead.
I don't know if it's as much a question as it's a concern. As you mentioned, it's going to take a long time to pay for this. My biggest concern is that we spend $360,000 on a design and we don't have the money in hand to build that. I'm just concerned that we spend that much money and somewhere along the line, you know, I could just see this coming back 5 years from now, 6, 7 years from now, and, you know, we have to adjust the plan to kind of fit the means. And I just think that Phase B or whatever that you had up there, the second, is just too big.
Well, that's, I mean, like I said, that's what we outlined in our outline proposal on how we were gonna, you know, that's why I brought back and break it up over this amount of years to be able to build it. There are some things kind of that generally have to really go in at the same time, and so they really need to be designed together. Regarding Task B, a lot of that infrastructure, the you know, power, lighting, sewer, water, all that sort of thing really needs to be designed at the onset, because so we can plan for how it's going to function in the future. So, and then like with Task A, the road frontage, you know, we separated that because that could potentially happen sooner as far as construction. So,
Robbie, do you anticipate any grant monies coming into this project?
we're definitely going to go for grants. The next cycle would be in 2023 for the Land and Water Conservation Fund.
You have to have the plan designed prior to submitting for grants?
Correct. Well, with the master plan, yeah.
Dave, you going to say something?
Councilman, well, if I could add to it, one of the things we looked at, we thought of pulling out the soccer field area and coming back in, but that's one we really believe we can do in-house. So the hardscape, the utilities, the parking lot, those we expect to go and contract out. But we wanted to have the irrigation designed, make sure that the flows were right, to know what the grading is. But that's one that we have the staff, we have the equipment and talent to do that. That will speed it up heavily and reduce the cost quite a bit.
Is there any way to get it bond and basically design it, bond it, and pay for it over years from the impact fees?
I'd have to ask Shelley on that. Or Jason,
So we have,
those are.
in the past, our attorney has felt that we cannot borrow using impact fees as a funding source.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Steve?
No. And I think it's important that we do have a plan. I think, as we stated, I served on the Land and Water Conservation Fund Committee for 10 years. And if you don't come in with a plan and what you're going to do with the property, there's a lot of hoops you got to go through. And so they always like to see something as a full package when you come in, even though it has the two tasks, but they want to see what the final product is going to be before they award you federal money and state money. So I think it's important that the whole project is shown as it's going to be when it's completed, because very seldom will they fund a partial part of a plan, because they want a commitment that you're going to be finishing that second part. So,
Yeah.
so I think what they're asking for makes sense to me.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. So do we need to, I know you're bringing it forward for update, but is this one you were going to bring back?
No,
for
this
approval?
is for a contract for design, so I'm just seeking council approval on that contract.
I would move to approve the Tulamore Sports Complex Phase 1 design contract.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Borders,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thanks, Robbie. And the last is an ordinance on the land application annexation.
Move to place the ordinance on land application annexation on its first and only reading by title only while under suspension of the rules.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Anthony,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Harrington.
An ordinance of the City of Post Falls, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, annexing property consisting of approximately 714.180 acres located in the southwest quarter of Section 13, the north half of Section 22, and the north half of Section 23, all within Township 51 North, Range 5 West, Boise Meridian, Kootenai County, Idaho, and the zoning of the annexed property public reserved PR, providing for amendment of the official zoning map and providing for an effective date hereof.
Move to approve the ordinance land application annexation to direct the clerk to assign the appropriate number and that it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Malloy,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda tonight is new business. And we have several items under that. The first is resolution, council commission meeting recess procedures.
So included in the packet is a resolution, and if you approve of the procedures that are included with that resolution, it would allow us to implement those procedures for council meetings and commission meetings. What that does is, under certain circumstances, such as medical or emergency circumstances, we would close the meeting, and it directs our media as to whether or not to continue recording, not to record, to cut the live feed, depending upon the circumstances. They're also under medical and the unruly audience member, where the police department would take action. And so what we're seeking tonight is for you to approve the resolution allowing for those procedures to go into place. And the chairperson or the mayor would take the lead on all of these. So he would be directing the meeting and whether or not to close the meeting and stop recording.
And the intent would be just to recess to the anteroom, let the situation be resolved, and then come back into session. Gotcha.
Yeah, I was just kind of surprised that we didn't have
Nothing.
a lot of those when I
Nothing
was
formal.
reading.
Procedure.
Yeah, so now it would just formalize it.
Yeah, we have not had a formal procedure. We've had informal procedures, but nothing formal. I mean, we've had the medical emergency occur and things like that, but we've not had any formal procedures. I have to tell you already, this has been popular, and I've had several other agencies ask about it and sent it over to them because they also have not had any formal procedures. Not sure how the word got out, but
So you bring that back?
no, this is
This is formal?
resolution is on
This is right,
tonight's
okay.
meeting.
This resolution.
I'd move to approve the resolution, council and commission meeting recess procedures.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item up is the Economic Development Project Submittal Policy.
So the city has adopted a formal economic development policy. It was adopted 5-6 years ago that have certain processes and procedures in place. One of the things it did not contain was the submittals that are coming through Department of Commerce, Jobs Plus, or directly to the city. And we've run into a number of those submittals that have high wastewater usage. That's primarily what we're seeing. There's also been one that we were part of the submittal. We were unaware that there was an odor issue. They had selected down to Rathdrum, and Rathdrum became aware of the fact that this was going to have some odor issues involved with this project. And so what this allows us to do is it allows staff to be able to look at the request, is called usually RFIs is what they call them, and determine whether or not it's going to meet our transportation, our water, our wastewater, any kind of environmental issues, and make a recommendation as to whether or not to actually submit for that project. Again, this is one Jobs Plus has asked us to kind of put together, and once we adopt it, then it will go out to the other cities, and Coeur d'Alene, Rathdrum, and Hayden will probably adopt something very similar so that they too can look at these projects as they come in and determine whether or not you're going to be able to meet. Like I said, it's been a lot of food processors have really, really, really high wastewater usage. And so being able to tell them that, no, we're not going to submit on this project because of this, we cannot meet the capacity requirements with our wastewater plant. And again, it also looks at those other items, transportation, water, and other environmental issues. But the primary one we've run into over the last 2 years, I'd say, is the wastewater. And it's been a lot of food processors looking at Idaho has been. There's also, I know Avista has been running into some really high electric requests. And those are a lot of Bitcoin and those kinds of facilities looking at locating throughout the Northwest. And they are denying those applications. So Avista also is looking at probably adopting something similar to this. But if they can't supply that high voltage electricity and the amount, and some of these we're talking like for one site it would be more than electricity is for one of our cities. And so they're fairly onerous, and so Avista has been denying some of those also. So it's kind of been going around in the background, and we wanted to make you aware of what we were doing so that you would have that information.
One thing I like about this, these policies, this one and the last one we voted on too, is that like it also protects the businesses and public involved too, that the mayor or the city can't just pull stuff willy-nilly. There's a policy now to go by, so it makes it predictable for everybody. So that's what I really appreciate about it, rather than just having an ad hoc, unwritten policy like we've had up until now. So I appreciate all the work that went into these.
You're very welcome. Yeah, and we appreciate having the formal policy also, because some of the times we feel like we're making a decision that is not known to everyone, so.
Need a motion, correct?
Yes, to adopt
I'd
the
move to
resolution.
approve the resolution economic development project submittal policy.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Shannon, please take the roll.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item C tonight is the engineering and construction management service for Well House 11.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Andrew Arbini, Projects Division Manager for Public Works. I'm presenting the agreement with JUB Engineers for engineering services and construction management for the new Well House 11. The location of the project is southwest of Celtice and Beck Road, on the west side of town, and adjacent to the existing Well House 9. The project was identified in the 2018 Water System Master Plan. The addition of Well House 11 will add, went too far. The addition of the well will add supply to the west zone. Currently, the supply in the west zone is provided through Well 9, and with the ability to supplement from the main zone, the addition of Well House 11 will help with that supply and accounts for the needed supply in the 5-year capital improvement plan. The picture here shows pump testing that was actually done as part of the well installation in 2020. So the well has been drilled as part of a separate well drilling contract. And that was pump tested and currently is just a pipe in the ground. The well house construction would include construction of the facility over that pipe. So the request tonight is approval of the engineering and CMS agreement with JUB for a total amount of $232,100. Task 300 is a contingency amount in the amount of $11,600 and would be authorized by the Public Works Director for any changes or benefits to the city's water system. And then this is budgeted and funded through the water system budget with the budget account below. Quick overview of our next steps. So pending an approved contract this evening with JUB, they would begin design of the project. Anticipating a completed and approved design through DEQ by mid to late winter. Concurrent with that process, we would also add another step of pre-qualifying contractors. We can do that concurrent with the design. So that would run about the same time. And then in the spring, we would look to advertise for bid for the project with summer construction. I did add in parentheses a note on tentatively bidding and construction. And that'll be an opportunity for us to check in on the current market conditions and whether or not it makes sense and it's within the best interest of the city and the city's needs, water system needs, to proceed at that time. That concludes my presentation. I'll answer any questions.
Questions for Andrew? See none. Thank you.
I would move to approve the engineering and construction management service for Well House 11.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Wolf?
Aye.
Borders?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
Malloy?
Aye.
Thorson?
Aye.
Wilhelm?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item up is Ponderosa pre-qualification results appeal by La Riviere. Did I say that right?
I believe so.
I've heard it pronounced differently, so I wasn't certain.
So John Beecham, Public Works Director, here to present the an appeal for the Ponderosa Lift Station, Ponderosa Lift Station pre-qualification process results. And I will note, I'm not sure if there's anybody from La Riviere here tonight, so that may make this a shorter hearing. But I want to go through the process so you guys are aware of what's being decided. We are in the process of design to replace the Ponderosa Lift Station that is located by Politis Park, Ross Point Road, Ponderosa Boulevard, shown in red. Project is fairly basic for a lift station replacement project that we would do. Construct a new wet well, control building, add emergency storage, which is really the big cost, add capacity for growth, and address any stormwater issues. So when we were looking at how to procure a contractor to construct this, we determined that using a pre-qualification process might be beneficial to get the sort of top-of-the-line contractors who are qualified for this sort of work. And that is allowed under Idaho code. We can establish criteria for who would bid on a project. As long as we go through the proper procedures, we can then evaluate people who do submit and see who's pre-qualified to work on the project. So the process to do that is we develop the criteria. We post those as if we were going out to bid. We review the qualifications, issue determinations. If there is an argument with staff's determinations, that is appealed to the governing board, which is you in this case. And an appeal after that decision would go to the Public Works Contractor Licensing Board. The only thing that licensing board reviews is the process. Did we go through the steps correctly? They don't dive into our scores and determine if we scored contractors correctly. We are here in this. We are at an appeal to the governing board. So staff decision has been issued, conveyed to the contractors, and one of the contractors is appealing that decision. Field helped me with this a little bit, but this is not a land use appeal. This is sort of a different set of rules. The council's the request we have of the council is either to sustain our decision or to overturn it. If you overturn it, that would mean La Riviere is pre-qualified to bid on the project. They would be able to submit a bid, as would any of the other pre-qualified contractors. So the format for tonight is this staff report from me, any appeal testimony. Like I say, I don't know that there's anybody here from La Riviere, so we would defer to their written appeal that's in the agenda packet, and then if there is testimony, an opportunity for staff to rebut that. Quickly walk you through the details. We published this on dates listed there in the paper. We received 8 responses by the deadline. City staff and our consultant reviewed those and found 7 of the 8 firms to meet the criteria we established. Sent those notices out with the findings in October, and La Riviere appealed those findings within the allowable time frame. So The pre-qualification criteria themselves were kind of 4 parts. Do you have experience in this sort of work? Do you have satisfactory history of doing this sort of work? If you have experience with the city of Post Falls, do you meet a minimum score that we established? And also, we had the option to call for references for folks we hadn't worked with or for folks we had worked with for other people who'd worked with them with the same scoring criteria that the city would apply. So in terms of Le Riviere's specific results, they did have satisfactory answers on the overall performance history. They did have satisfactory experience with similar facilities as they listed in their application. When we got to prior experience with the city of Post Falls, they did not meet the minimum criteria that we established in our scoring. And since that was pass-fail, we then didn't conduct interviews with the references for the Part 4. I'll give an explanation of where we got our scores, because I think that's helpful for you to hear. The summary of all the scores is here, and you notice the average is 2.9. Our minimum criteria was 3. So it's not like they were wildly below our bar that we set, but they were below it. And so we were following through with the criteria that we established and the ramifications of that. I should note that we had 2 different scoring criteria. You had to have an average of 3 or higher. You could also not score 2 or less on more than 2 criteria. And you notice that starred here in 2 areas, Le Riviere scored 2 or less, but they actually met that criteria, as it is more than 2 would have disqualified them. So borderline scores are by both criteria. Walking through these, first question was, did the contractor provide adequate personnel? And they scored 2.25. I should say we had 4 city staff independently review these, consolidated our answers, and used the average score from those staff. So it wasn't like I scored this personally. It was different folks across Public Works. Some of the reasons, some specific examples for why this was a lower score. On the Jacqueline Lift Station project, we had a situation where the days had run for the contract. It was officially time to be done, and the project was not completed. There were also no crews working on the project, which was of concern to us. On the last summer's Polston Good paving project, the major area where crews were lacking was traffic control. They had a traffic control plan with a certain number of people, and there were less people on site. And then on the 12th Avenue project, goes back a couple of years, there was a paving window that was missed due to the paving crew from Le Riviere not mobilizing to the site. And that resulted in an extended partial closure of 12th Avenue from the fall until the spring, because we had to wait for that paving window to open back up. So not the only examples, but we thought these were illustrative of why that score of 2.25 was where they were scored at. Did the contractor provide adequate supervision for the project on site? We said generically yes, and I'll give less explanation for the scores that were higher. Most of the issues with adequate supervision are related to crew scheduling, crew management, and project boundaries. We have had a number of projects where they were given an easement to work on or property to work on, and their stuff is parked in somebody else's field and causes some issues, and when it repeats, it's frustrating. Did the contractor provide adequate construction equipment for the work? No issues with the score, or no issues with that. Score was 3 3/4 out of 4. And did the contractor adhere to the owner-approved project schedule? This was the lowest score that we gave. On multiple projects, Le Riviere has not completed the project by the contractual deadline. On 12th Avenue lift station project, that was completed after what would have been the contract completion date. We negotiated an extension. I think you remember that. There was some additional funds for our engineer to help with that. I will say the 12th Avenue project schedule did happen in the last 2 years, which has been very weird for building things. But this predates the last 2 years. On the Jacqueline lift station, there was also a required negotiated schedule extension. And even after that schedule extension, their new moved deadline was not met. And we ended up assessing liquidated damages for the days that went on past that time in an effort to get it done in a somewhat timely manner. And on the 7th Avenue project, which was about the 2016, 2017 timeframe, there were significant delays in getting that project completed, and so that again exceeded the project completion date. It's worth noting those are the contractual deadlines that were missed, but there are numerous internal milestones that have been missed on different projects too. That we'll do this by this date, and then it doesn't happen. The paving that I mentioned is an example of that. And did the contractor provide timely and cost-effective submissions of cost and time estimates for change order work? And overall, our issues with this were related to project management and administration issues. So the paperwork that came from La Riviere in terms of submittals, pay applications, required significant work between the engineer and back to La Riviere to get it done correctly so that it could be paid or it could be approved. And what that results in is just us paying the engineer more to do that review multiple times, and then potentially timeline constraints if things can't be approved in time, to get ordered in time, to get installed in time. So that was on 12th Avenue lift station. On Jacqueline lift station, and again, this is a single example, but there were multiple revisions of the traffic control plan to get it to something that was approvable so that they could move on with the work. So sort of the office work behind the construction projects. These last two are quick. They deal with any claims that have been filed. They scored 4 out of 4 on both of those. La Riviere has not filed claims on any of the projects we've been involved with them. So in summary of my presentation, the city staff followed the correct procedures to put this project out there for pre-qualification and then to compile the results. We feel we presented the criteria clearly, and when we evaluated La Riviere's past performance, we found it to be substandard or at least below our expectations for what that would be to pre-qualify them on this next project. Any questions of me?
Well, you know, when I first saw it, it looked like, well, they're awfully close, right,
Yeah.
to meeting the qualification. But then when you go through it step by step, it's not an isolated incident. It does not appear to be. I guess my thought is we had procedure in place, and I don't think we're trying to penalize anybody unjustly, but there's a procedure in place, criteria that had to be met. So personally, it's up to council to decide, but personally, I would support the decision made by staff.
And 1 second, if I may. If I don't think the decision would be right now. There might be. I'm looking and I don't recognize anybody, but we should. So.
I didn't see anybody either. Council comment. No.
Couple of things. Number one, does this process then eliminate them from bidding on anything for the city?
No, this is specific to this project, the Ponderosa lift station upgrade. So Andrew mentioned we might do pre-qualification on the well 11 well house. That would be a new published set of criteria. La Riviere would be welcome to submit on that. In the criteria we put out for this, we looked at a 5-year history. So I should say we met with Tom La Riviere and talked about this as staff. And one of the things he said is we've made significant improvements in some of those past projects. As some of those past projects maybe aren't considered, if they have indeed made improvements, that would be noticed when we're reevaluating these criteria later. So.
That was the second part of my question, and you know, I guess I anticipated somebody was going to be here from this company and speak to some of these deficiencies. Were they provided then with this list of deficiencies so they could see why we scored the way we did?
So yes, not in a super direct way. They were given a letter that indicated their scores were with regard to the city evaluation of past performance. They came and met with us, and I walked through many of the same examples in person with Tom La Riviere, the owner of the company. I sent him an email and let him know that the hearing was scheduled for tonight on the 7th. So he was aware of that, or should have been aware. And then within the council packet that was published is the staff report you saw with all the detailed explanation. And I told him in our in-person meeting, this is what I will be presenting to the city council.
Okay. That's
I expected somebody to be here as well.
When did that email go out?
Last week, I can't tell you the day.
Okay, so it wasn't
but-
like 5 o'clock or something?
No.
John, I don't know if you answer. It looks like a lot of their issues were due with not meeting timelines or coming through. Now, was the quality of their work, though, the projects they've done for us, are you satisfied with the quality of work they've done? That if they do come in to bid on future projects?
Yeah, I would say the work that's done in the field either meets our expectations or it is fixed to meet our expectations generically.
Okay.
Linda?
John, I'm wondering, it looked like there was 7 people who bid the job, is that right?
There were 8
Oh, 8.
submittals and 7 met the criteria.
Right, okay. And so, this was the only company that didn't meet the criteria
That's correct.
out of the 8? Okay, okay.
I'm good. So,
I would, for the record, I would open it up for
thank you.
for the La Riviere to present, and then seeing none, I think you can close that. However, it is a little bit tricky. We're under an interesting code section that when the appeal goes to the governing board has to basically, if you want to sustain the decision of staff, you have to give the reasons why. And that is so that if it does get appealed to the contractor's license board, what they look at is the announced qualification standards, whether they comport with the law, and whether your decision is supported by the entirety of the record. So I think I would point to some of the items.
Okay, so the next step would be to see if there's anyone from La Riviere who would like to speak in support of their appeal. I see none. So now we would need a motion, but in that motion, we would need to reference some of these issues that were presented in this report.
I would move that we sustain the City of Post Falls decision based on the fact that the contractor average score for adequate personnel was 2.25, that their average score of 3 was 3 for adequate supervision of the project, that their average score of, am I doing this right, John? 3.75 for adequate construction equipment for the work, and their average score of 1.5, that the contractor could adhere to the owner's approved schedule, and their average score of 2, that the contractor provided timely and cost-effective submissions of cost and time estimates for change in work orders. I think that's all I have.
I suppose I might be able to add some color to that, too.
One sec, excuse me. You made a motion?
I'll second it.
We'll need a second. Thank you, Kerry. Joe?
The biggest drawbacks that were brought up in terms of past experience with Post Falls are, one, timelines. Timelines are expensive when they get extended, and I believe it's our job as a council to protect the public, not only safety-wise and financially. So the timeline issue is a financial issue because any change orders, timeline extensions, everything else get really expensive really quick.
Yep.
From a safety issue, it was a really low rating on traffic control on the one project. That's a public safety issue. And we also had 12th Street, which was unpaved and had traffic revisions for a period of months, which is a public safety issue. So if they have a fairly poor track record in terms of public treasure and public safety, I think that the staff has made the right decision.
Can I add a comment quick? Al, and then I'll come to you. I'd also, on the traffic on that one particular project, not only could it have been a safety issue, but it also basically precluded access to a couple of the businesses that were in that area, which is not acceptable. Al?
Linda did a great job making that motion. I think that the only thing I would tweak that a little bit is we're talking about why are we denying this, right? We're saying no to their appeal, and I think it's just more specific to the two issues that popped up, well, three issues, I guess. The overall score did not meet the criteria of 3, was 2.9, and we had 2 that scored 2 or less. I don't know that we need to have the other stuff in there, but I don't know. I was going to defer to Field as to, I mean, that's really why I would vote to sustain the appeal, not because they got a 4 and a 4 and a 3.75, but because they got a 1.5, a 2, and a 2.9.
Field, how do you want that?
So I think you could amend the motion to sustain the decision of staff. Is that
Based on just those numbers, those 3 items versus,
Well,
right? And that
one
they're
concern, though, is on that one, it was 2 or more, and they had, or
Right.
more than 2, and they had 2.
yeah.
So they would have met that one.
and maybe John can illustrate the way the score was averaged again.
So
the average score is 3
So-
or more.
So
I would like to amend the motion and include everything that Counselor Malloy said and everything that Counselor Wolf said. Carrie?
And I'll second it.
And we'll let them bring it back to, we're going to let you work your magic. Any other questions, comments? Thank you all.
Works.
Roll call, please.
Borders,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thanks, John. Thank you. And thank you all for your comments and moving that forward.
The first for us.
Next item up is the resolution on the opioid settlement agreement.
I'd move to approve the resolution for the opiate settlement agreement.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Anthony,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And the last is the closing of the Expo Urban Renewal Area Ordinance.
Yeah.
I'd move to place the ordinance closing Expo Urban Renewal Area on its first and only reading by title only while under suspension of the rules.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Malloy,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Harrington.
An ordinance of the City of Post Falls, Kootenai County, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, reciting a brief history of the Expo Urban Renewal Plan approved pursuant to Post Falls Ordinance 1011, directing termination of the Expo Urban Renewal Revenue Allocation Area established pursuant to Post Falls Ordinance 1011, authorizing city staff to take all steps to implement this ordinance, provide for the repeal of conflicting ordinance provisions, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Move to approve the ordinance closing Expo Urban Renewal Area, to direct the clerk to assign the appropriate number and that it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion. And roll
Yay.
call.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item of the agenda is citizens' issue, and this section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the council regarding a city-related issue that is not on the agenda. And if you wish to speak, come forward, give your name for the record, and we will allow you 5 minutes. Seeing none. Administrative staff reports. City snow operation plan. Before you start, I want to let you know that we're driving down the freeway last night. the freeway was clear. And it must have been, if it's a freeway, is it federal vehicle then plowing?
State highway?
State highway?
Yeah.
It was one of ours. There was no snow on the shoulder, and the plow was down as they were going down the street, down the freeway. So I was thrilled and thankful that it was not a City of Post Falls plower.
Were there sparks? Good evening, Mayor and Council. Ross Junkin, Public Works Maintenance Manager. Here to present tonight on our snow operations plan. Go over a few things: staffing, equipment, materials. Go over some highlights and a few minor changes that we're implementing, and there'll be the snowplow map to look at, although you might not be able to see it very well. Staffing, we have 15 full-time employees as operators, 2 seasonals. We are almost there with a full staff. We have 1 full-time employee to hire. We're trying to get that last one in. I thought we had it today, but they called in and backed out. So we're still hopeful to get somebody on board to learn our routes. That's the challenge. This late in the season is to learn our equipment, learn our routes, learn our operations. And then the supporting staff is a department specialist, supervisor, myself, the manager, and 3 mechanics who are very busy this time of year keeping things running. Equipment, 8 dump truck plows, 4 de-icer tanks, and then the 4 leased loaders that are equipped with the plow gates. That lease is up in 23, at the end of 23, before that season, snow season begins. So we will be coming back to you in the future, trying to figure out what our plan of attack is for either replacing those or moving forward in that same direction. Other equipment that supports us, skid steer backhoe. We do have a grader. It's a 1978. However, we just put that one out to pasture. It's got some pretty major issues that are not worth the cost of repair at this point. So we're still trying to figure that one out. Materials that we use mag chloride as a de-icer agent. Sand, which is stored at the highway district, so we have to travel to the other end of town anytime we need to reload. Same thing with the mag chloride, it's stored there. And salt, we are looking to store salt at our facility and be able to put that down. This last snow event this week would have been a perfect opportunity to use salt. It would have helped burn it off much quicker than trying to use mag chloride. The plan highlights show staff shifts. We split our staff. We have a day shift and a night shift. So 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. on a normal work day. If we have to extend hours, because we're plowing, we can go 24 hours a day plowing. So they can extend to 12-hour days. And the night shift starts at 6 p.m. as well. The plowing, we've labeled our events as minor and moderate to heavy, with according accumulations shown there. And then I mentioned about the snow leader leases. A couple changes. We've had quite a few requests from citizens about plowing cul-de-sacs. Everybody wants snow to be plowed a certain way in front of their homes. It's very challenging for operators to meet all those because when the world turns white, it all looks the same. So we're electing to move in the same direction for all of them and plowing to the center of the cul-de-sac. It does make a challenge for some homeowners trying to back in and out, but to be consistent for operators and our citizens, we're going to be doing that. Also, there's a few areas in the city in which citizens, again, have requested that we push snow to the opposite side of the street, which is actually a safety issue for us and our motorists. So when we plow, we're going to be going with the direction of traffic. In the past, there has been areas where they've asked us to push to the opposite side all of the snow from the entire street, which poses that problem. So we are going to switch that and err on the safety of our operators and the traffic. You can see in the pictures that plow driver is not doing it the right way. This year, I'm going to be sending out a snow brochure. I know you can't see that, but I could provide you a copy of it. It's going to go out in our utility billing for this month. It's just it's got some notes on where to look for information that we can provide. It also has some winter preparation thoughts for them. We did send out door hangers throughout the city to ask citizens to remove their basketball hoops from the right-of-ways so they're not interfering with our operations. We've gotten quite a bit of compliance on that, so we're thankful for that. I'd say 90%, which was really good. And the other thing is, actually, that number got adjusted, actually, while I was sitting in the audience here. It's 9.8 miles added this year, new streets for this since last October. So we've, over the last 6 years, we've added about 10 miles per year. So we keep increasing number of roads, number of lanes to plow and maintain. This is just a quick glimpse on our priorities on our snow and ice maps. These are show the priority 1s and 2s and the colors. It's kind of hard to see. However, we have 29 miles of priority 1s, which include Celtice, Idaho, Mullen, some of the major roads. 49 miles of priority 2s, which are the lesser traveled roads, but they're still a priority for us. And then priority 3s being neighborhoods. That concludes my presentations. I'll take any questions.
Ross, I'd just like to thank you and the staff. I know that no matter how good a job you do or any other city does, not everyone's going to be happy. I appreciate those that let us know when they appreciate the job that is well done. And I also know that a lot of the complaints we have are legitimate, and a lot of them are just folks that you can't make happy. So I know you're in an unenviable position. You're either plowing too early, or you're plowing too late, or you're not plowing enough, or you're plowing too frequently. And we do hear all the complaints, but again, please know that we support the efforts that you and your staff are putting into this, and appreciate the work you do. And I would just like to say that it's pretty easy to sit in the comfort of our home at 10 o'clock at night and listen to the snowplows go by and be thankful that I'm not driving the snowplow. Yeah. So again, thanks for the work you and your staff do.
Thank you. Yeah, and knowing that our operators, our staff, they'll work Christmas, they'll work New Year's, they'll work those days. They're ready for it. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item up is Meadow Grove Park update. I was wondering if we were going to get you involved. The only staff we haven't heard from yet is Chief, and I might be able to find a question for him. So.
Sounds like a plan. He's feeling left out. He's new enough. Right. Bob Seal, Community Development Director. So wanted to bring forward just the update on update and synopsis for the Meadow Grove Park. I can talk about the police department. They helped me with getting some aerial photos. So.
All right. Good job, Greg.
The drone out there.
So just a kind of quick history on it, really brief. The Meadow Grove PUD and subdivision was approved back in end of 2017, going through both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the council at that time. This is the general landscaping plan that was part of the agreement. You can see the center there is that park area. Yeah, so that there. And so there was a few conditions that were included within the approval. The project indicated that it would be completed in 3 phases. And these conditions were more specific to the park. So the proposed community park shall be completed within phase 2. Phase 2 and phase 3 may occur concurrent with each other, but phase 3 cannot occur prior to phase 2. So I wanted to show you a little closer up as to what that is. So you can see the park, and it was included within phase 2. And so that is kind of one of the things that did end up happening with this, is that they did end up doing a concurrent plan, so that they moved directly into phase 2 and phase 3 about the same time, partially due to weather. It was coming on near the fall, and they wanted to be able to get their infrastructure and roadway in place so that they could continue building through and into the spring for phase 3. So they did get done concurrently. So in 2017, this is just an aerial of that site in 2017. As you can see, it was just bare land in that general area, and you can see just to the south, Staples and anyways, Loop were under construction at that time. By 2018, it had been approved at the end of 2017. By 2018, they started moving dirt and installing the roads, and you can see again where the location of that future park was going to be. 2019 is when they had moved into doing phase 2 and phase 3 at the same time. You can see that the park had begun to be created. You can see the walkways and what is ultimately the playground structure and pergola in that area. And this was when the first time that Ms. O'Toole reached out to us to look at the park and come and take a look at the condition of it. So I did go out there at that time and met with her on site, and I looked at the playground, which did not have any kind of bark or any kind of, it just had dirt underneath it at that time. The seed had not really been spread throughout the park. It was primarily weeds at that time, especially at that time. So we reached out to Polar Construction in 2019, and they indicated that they would be out there to seed and would get the bark or whatever underlayment was going to be put under the playground structure in place. By 2020, we did notice, or we knew that he had put down seed, I believe, in the fall of 2019. I'm not 100% sure on the dates exactly, but by 2020, knew that the seed had been put in place. And we did hear from Ms. O'Toole at that time as well, trying to find out the status of the transferring of the HOA into the homeowners' names, and kind of looking at what that process looked like. And from a city perspective, I indicated that typically the HOA is held with the developer until all site improvements were completed, and then they would, that would happen between the developer and the homeowners at that time. And again, it's kind of it's a civil issue. It usually happens within the development itself, and the city is not typically involved in that transfer. But we did, again, follow up with Polar Construction to encourage them to make sure that the park was completed, along with the planting of trees, or essentially as it was planned in some form or another, including the getting the bark down, because I don't believe the bark was down yet by 2020. By 2021, the seed had taken some form of root. I believe that maybe there was, not a ton of topsoil on site when they did apply the hydro seed, but you can tell that there is grass there, having been out to the site. And there has been some efforts to put in bark underneath the playground set, but again, it doesn't look like it's super thick or fully covering. This was kind of the final applicable conditions. It indicated that as it was going to be completed in the 3 phases, that condition 4 was a private association shall be responsible for the landscaping, irrigation, maintenance of community swales and open spaces, including the rights of way. Condition 10 was related to the play structure. The actual plans showed a pickleball court, but they would allow for a play structure to be constructed as well. So you can see within the actual construction plans that were provided was that it was to be a pickleball court, but they opted to go with the play structure in the end. We do not have detailed guidelines as to how to develop a neighborhood park. Primarily within the PUD, it indicates that the park shall be within, somewhat of an equal walking distance to all the homes in the neighborhood, as well as be delineated with landscaping or fence. That's essentially the extent of the requirements that we have for community parks or neighborhood parks. Again, here's the aerial that was taken. This was done by the police department. And you can see the playground, pergola, and the walkways. And there are trees in various locations. And you can see here the playground. You can see that this is landscape fabric that's showing through with the bark, not fully covering it. And this is a curb that goes around the outside of it that would be used to help retain the bark within the site. This is kind of the breakdown that I've already kind of noted. Just again, general timeline of communications starting in 19, where we were contacted and we reached out to Polar Construction and saw that some progress was being made and attempt to make those improvements. And again, indicating that we saw minor improvements and were in the process of trying to reach out to Polar Construction or Mark Robertson.
Hello, Cleveland.
And so that's kind of the general timeline that we had. We did, again, earlier this year, try and reach out to Mark Robertson. I believe it's Mark. John Manley did talk to him. Mark indicated that he didn't really want to maintain or retain the park and area and up here and wanted it to be finished and completed. He's primarily the financing end of it, I believe is out of Oregon. And that Polar Construction was the local contact. And we have again tried to reach out to Polar Construction to get that, transferred as when possible. The advice that I have kind of received regarding this is, that we only have so much that we can do, but we continue to try and reach out and make those contacts when we can. I did leave a voicemail yesterday and sent another email without any responses in that. So.
Bob, I don't know if this is for you or for Field. So we approve a development plan for a developer who promises to put in a park. We have standards that have to be adhered to if it's going to become a city park. If this is a neighborhood park, Dave, just to nod, the neighborhood, the homeowner association would take care of it. Is that correct? However, we have standards that have to be adhered to. And if you look at it, the playground structure, I think was brought to our attention, it was a backyard playground structure is what it looks like. It is, I guess my point is, how do we hold the developer accountable to create a project or to honor the commitments they've made in a matter or level of quality that is acceptable? Because you can go in and say you're going to put a park in, and you can throw something together and say, oh yeah, it's a park, when we would not accept it. So I don't know what the legal requirements are for us. I understand that if it's a homeowner and property owner and homeowner association, the developer situation, I know we don't tend to get involved in that. But what leverage does the city have to make sure that something like this does not occur or can be remedied?
I think the important thing to do is to have those criteria well laid out and have them in where they are done prior to other phases or stuff like that, so that you can control to make sure that those things get done before they go on to another phase.
Can we put a level of quality that has to be adhered to?
We can certainly, through our standards, we can certainly adjust those things, through ordinances and through the the zoning code.
And we can continue to try to reach out to the developer, and if they don't respond, what are our legal options then?
Unfortunately, it really is, that comes down to those two entities finding a way to work together. And so I think we try our best to facilitate those connections, but sometimes they don't always make that connection.
Linda?
Well, I have several things to say, and you haven't been answering my email, so I know that you know that I have several things to say. I spoke to Cliff Mort this morning. Cliff settled on the last 5 remaining lots that are there. He does have control of them as of about 6 days ago. He's going to build on them, but he's not going to build right now. He is going to reach out to, I guess, probably Matafana. I've talked to Matafana 5 times, and Matt continues to say the same thing. And though the mantra seems to be that the city can't do anything about this, I personally, I disagree with that. So,
Excuse me, I'm sorry, we can't have comments from the,
I think what has happened here, that the homeowners association has never been formed, number one. We've paid our dues, but the checks have never been cashed. So I think that there is some, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I think that there is some responsibility. And when I got a letter, I'm sorry, I'm a little flustered because I'm a little upset about this, but when I got a letter back that said something about putting grass or something in there, we've talked to Water Wizards, who was supposed to put the irrigation in. We've several times. There's 11 dead trees there. That park, and I don't have children, so I don't know anything about that park structure, but I just have to take the word of the neighbors that live there. The grass is not growing. It's just a bunch of potholes. It's worse than the prairie is. I mean, I walked out there, and I'm surprised the kids don't fall down and break their neck. And if they do, then whose fault is it going to be? Because it doesn't seem, and I am pro Post Falls, I'm pro city, but it doesn't seem like the city followed through here. And I don't want it to be a city park, because obviously it can't be, it's too small. But I think that there has to be some sort of something that the city can say to the developer of this who did not follow through on their development agreement, because they didn't. It's not a functional neighborhood park, and it is not a functioning HOA. I live there, so I know this is true. And I just would ask, I mean, if you want me to stand down there and ask as a citizen, I'm happy to do that.
You're fine.
But I would ask that somebody do something about this. Cliff Mort said he will do what he can, because obviously he's not going to build, $600,000 or $700,000 houses out there where there's supposed to be an HOA and there isn't one. I mean, he'd be a fool to do that. He was shocked this morning when I told him that there was no functioning HOA out there. So, and he built most of those houses out there. He built my house.
And I will say the legal department has been looking into this issue, and
So could we, and I appreciate, that you guys are even talking to these gals about this, but I think something needs to be done.
find a resolution.
Yeah, have some solution, so that, going down the road, other subdivisions don't end up in this same boat, number one, and somehow we can possibly help this subdivision get out of the boat that they're in.
I would like to note that we have done, this type of phasing plan in the past, that we have, allowed for concurrent development in the past and have never had this problem before.
Tulamore,
So-
we had that problem.
Tulamore was a yeah, I mean, that's a whole different situation, and that's.
Why is that a different situation? Because it's bigger?
Because I wasn't here for that and didn't have a
Well,
solution for that.
it has happened.
So we can move phasing of parks around, so looking at that, I think we've heard over the last several years from council that you want to see parks moved up in the phasing plans with development, so we can do that. We can bring that back for your approval so that the parks, if this would have stated that that park had to be built before they could have a building permit on phase 2, this would not have occurred.
Right, and to some, Shelley, if we could have some, something in there that also states that it is built to the standard that it was given to, the people, or what,
Some level of quality, yes.
yeah, something that doesn't have something falling down and kids are getting hurt on.
Right, so I think we can fix the future. It's coming up with legal methods by which we can fix this current part.
And I would
that we're
ask that
looking
you
at.
keep working on that for us. Carrie?
I was wondering if there can be, I think that that's a good solution for the future, but if there is, it could be some sort of financial penalty for not complying by such and such time, or.
We can penalize, I mean, I can't even
But
say,
that
I shouldn't
doesn't-
say that with the right, the problem is going to be collecting. We have nothing to hold over this gentleman's head. He doesn't own any of the lots anymore. He's not going to be developing the lots. And so so what we could do is come up and, legal can come behind me here. But I mean, let's say the city goes out and puts in the funds to upgrade this park to what it should be, we can then pursue a lawsuit against the two individuals, the Robertson and Matt Alfana. Whether or not you ever collect on that would be a whole other.
But I'd still like to get further research and possible resolution.
If we could, I would just appreciate it, and I'm sorry that I get upset, but it's a very upsetting situation. We've got several letters about it. I know I've got several phone calls about it, and, so, anyway.
Al?
Couple of questions. Isn't a homeowners association set up by the homeowners?
So it basically starts out in the hands of the developers, and that they're putting in all of the infrastructure for it that will ultimately be maintained by the homeowners association. So they kind of basically start as that entity while it continues to get built out, and then it gets transferred along with the applicable land to the homeowners.
And that's what Matt Alfana has said the last 5 times I've talked to him at Polar Construction. Well, I don't think he's with them anymore. But anyway, he says that he has an attorney working on it and a property management company working on it. But he's been saying that for like the year and a half that I've lived there. And that's how you turn it over. So they turn it over, and then the homeowners get together and they get a board going and la-da-la-da,
Next question. Who owns the land?
I believe it's owned by essentially an LLC, which is, I think that Mark Robertson is the manager on it.
So essentially, could the homeowners association take the land? I mean, sue the guy? He
probably
didn't
want
do what
that
he was
to
supposed to?
The land belongs to the association.
Okay. Right. Next comment, I guess, would be that, is it possible to, in these particular situations, we've had some bad situations come up, is there a way for the city to, require a performance bond where
Not on private
developer
property.
has to put up $500,000 performance bond? And if he doesn't build the park, we've got $500,000 to turn around and build a park.
We don't do performance bonds on private property, and because it's a private park with the homeowners, with the overall neighborhood, it ultimately is a private development. I think that, again, as Shelley and Field have noted, is that we can establish criteria and guidelines by which we want, parks to be constructed to certain qualities, and, again, this is, that we can incorporate it into our design standards. And that way we can potentially get it to a certain level of quality, and also indicating, when is the proper time of year to seed. There's a lot of different things that you can lay out. Again, just add more rules, it's good. I mean, we can do it, and it helps with development process. We would have liked to have held it So when we did first start looking into this, and saw the issue, the first thing we did was look to see, can we hold up building permits in order to force their hands? By that point, the majority or all of the lots were held by different owners, and so therefore, we would have been only hurting individual home builders as opposed to those that were actually in control of it. So that's why we didn't hold up any permits at that
One
time.
more?
One last piece, and that, so if this park had been built, nice, it's all great, irrigation system goes south, who's responsible for fixing that? Is that the homeowners association again?
Essentially, yeah.
Steve?
Well, I think just a couple comments. There has to be some funds somewhere, because when the people closed on their homes through the title company collects the funds and sends it to the builder for his HOA. So there's money somewhere that whoever
There
is the developer is holding those funds.
That's
They're somewhere.
right,
Or
there
he
is.
spent them on something else. So why, the city can't go after him for those funds? or
If he
is
spent those funds, how are we going to collect them? I'm not saying, again, as I stated earlier, the city has the option to sue this individual, but whether or not we'll ever be able to collect anything that's an unknown. And it's the same as the HOA or the homeowners could actually sue this individual, but whether or not they would be able to recover or collect any of those funds would be an unknown.
So this is a civil issue, not a criminal issue, if he's taking money
Correct.
and not spending it correctly for what it's
Well,
designated for?
I won't speak to that because that
Okay,
has nothing
well,
to do with the city.
I'm kind of
Yeah.
understanding some, and I think, I don't want to give Dave any more work, but is there, through this PUD process, we have a park plan or anything, is there any way that plans could be submitted to our Parks Department so they can make recommendations on what is the right safety standards for equipment, how big of a base do you need under the equipment?
Again, we can change
we
those
can change
standards
it.
going
Yeah.
forward.
Right now,
But I think-
now, there's no they don't have to. They can take down the structure and still meet their requirements. They can take down the pergola and still meet their requirements. They can take out the path and still meet their requirements. An open grass field meets the requirements.
So what we need is to change our requirements for a PUD.
It depends on what we want for design criteria.
Yeah. I think.
Joe?
Probably for Field, the situation where we've got all of your homeowner paying association dues and there is no association, it seems like that can go on essentially forever. Is there, and again, we're talking future again right now, but how do we limit that? Because he's been collecting fees for God knows how long and obviously hasn't done anything with them.
Yeah, and I'd have to look into that a little bit more. I'm not sure. I think that
I guess my question is it municipal law that governs that? Is it Post Falls Code or is it state law?
I think it's private contract law. I mean, they're separate entities. The HOA is governed by its own. It's not an entity that is a form of government at all.
When we approve a development though, can we insert those types of stipulations that, hey, you've got X amount of months of collecting this before the HOA has to be formed, whether it's built out or not, then you don't get that money anymore?
I'm not sure. I'd have.
Okay.
I'd have
Phil,
to
could you
kinda dig
take
in that.
everything into consideration?
Yeah.
And, meet yourself and Warren, come back with any recommendations you can, number one, to prevent this from happening again. And number two, to see if there's any type of remedy that we can offer on this particular part.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
I don't know if I'm out of line here too, but how much work it would take for Dave or somebody to be able to come up with an estimate of how much it would take to remediate this park to something that's at least safe and usable. So then we have a number, and then we can decide as a council and a staff if we want to take that on and sue the developer or not, or what. But at least then we know what the dollars are.
Excuse me, Mike, I can't, it's not public, I can't take your, I'm sorry. Yeah. That being the case, maybe we could have you visit with even staff to let them know if you're president of the association. I just can't take a comment now, it's not a public comment. So you'll bring something back and at least point us in the right direction, because I think we all appreciate the concern, the
Thank you,
frustration.
Mayor. I appreciate it very
And,
much. Thanks.
Again, what frustrates me is when you see these things happen, we have seen it before where city staff had to step in and correct a park that was not built properly. The other thought is, if you get someone that's developing and/or building in your community, and this happens, how likely are we going to be, how receptive are we are we going to be to another project that they may bring
They're
forward?
out of business.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, maybe they are, but if it's others, so we have to come up with something that would at least allow us to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So any input you folks would have would be appreciated.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks for all the comments. Thanks, Bob. Mayor and council comments. Tonight, I have none other than please drive safely. Roads are a bit slippery. Even if they've been plowed, there's still some snow on some of the roads, and you find out real quick that you can turn the corner, but you may not go in the right direction. And so again, drive safely, especially in school zones. And I would make another comment. There have been several rapid flashing beacons put up on crosswalks. And as I drive into work in the morning when it's dark on Chase Road, I love it when the kids have finally started pushing that button, because of the lighting, you can't see the kids on the side of the road. But they push that button, and every car that I have seen stops to let them cross. So again, encourage kids, encourage your neighbors to push those buttons when crossing the road, especially in inclement weather. So, council comments.
I do. I'd just like to congratulate the Park and Rec Department on a wonderful job at Winterfest this past weekend. There was just literally hundreds and hundreds of people there, lots of little kids. It was a really, really nice time, and I just really appreciate your efforts very much.
Thank you for mentioning it. I received a text that said the
Very
same
nice.
thing. Lots of kids.
Yes.
Very well
It
done.
was great.
So, good. We do not need an executive session tonight. So the next motion is?
Adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.